welcome back to my channel. So this is gonna be one of those videos that I wasn't planning to make, but I just had an amazing conversation with a girlfriend of mine, and then we're talking about quiet quitting.
A 24-year-old engineer from New York posted a video about quiet quitting, and it went viral. Since then, the trend has spread like wildfire, with hashtags like quiet quitting, quitting, and quieting.
Does anybody want to work anymore?
Then the mainstream media began covering it.
Like working overtime? No thanks. Late night emails? Ignore those.
The world is changing and the way of work is changing. Even people saying, I'm not going back to the office. And if I do, I'm definitely quiet quitting until I find a job that is a lot more flexible.
COVID was the ultimate reset. COVID was that moment where people started to ask a bigger question. What do I want for my life? Do I want to continue working the way that I have? Or do I want something different? Do I want to continue to work, which is awesome, but do I also want to be able to enjoy my family? Do I also want to be able to enjoy my life? So I think all of these things are coming in stages, and I think quiet quitting is just the trend that's come as a result of the ultimate reset.
Okay, so I'm right here. I finally got home. I'm in my balcony, and I came home just to find out there's no electricity. So there's power cut, no power whatsoever. That's why I'm filming from my balcony. And you guys already know with my balcony noise, okay? The road is just noisy, like it's too much noise. That's usually why I don't like filming here. Even though I feel like I have a really, really nice view and I love the view, but it's just too noisy. But anyway, let's get started with today's conversation. So I wanted to talk about quiet quitting because that's something that everybody has been talking about. And I wanted to say this is not a new trend, right? It's been happening since the pandemic started. Many people have been talking about quiet quitting, which means that people don't want to overwork. They don't want to go through burnout. They just want a slow-paced type of work environment. And people are not going above and beyond. And we're talking about the Gen Zs and the millennials. So as a millennial, I'm here to tell you it hasn't started today. I was one of the people who quiet quit before. So I can tell you guys, this is not a 2020 trend or 2022 trends. Okay, it's been happening. So I just wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of background how I ended up quitting my corporate American job and becoming a full-time entrepreneur, and then decided to move to Africa. So that's the video I wanted to make today. So when I graduated, right, I told you guys I had bachelor in accounting. So when I graduated, I moved all the way from Minnesota to Houston. I got my first job, within my field of study. I was working as an internal auditor, and I loved what I was doing. My entire team were like a team of maybe 16 to 18 auditors in that company. And I remember I was the only Black girl and the only woman, right? Like the only woman when I got hired. 2 years after I got hired, they started hiring women, but it was just a team full of men, and I was the only brown girl on that team. Been there for 2 years, and I remember having this conversation with my boss about promotion, right? Because I was already due for a promotion. And he invited me to his office, called me on the phone, invited me to his office, and then he told me, I heard you also wanted to get promoted. And then I was like, duh. I was like, of course, I wanted to get promoted because look at what I've been doing. I've been doing more than what you guys have been asking me to do. Like I was expecting, guys, keep in mind that I was young. I wanted to work. I wanted to prove myself. This was my first job after graduating. And this is what he told me. Jenny, I'm just going to give you the look, right? This is what he told me. Jenny, you're a young woman. You don't have kids. You don't have a husband. You don't have a mortgage. What do you need the money for? Guys, I remember, I think I already told some of you the story in one of these videos. So that was my first reality check into real life, like not the school life, like real life. This is what happened in some companies, right? So, and the bold me that I was and that I am, the bold me was like, okay, I have a question. Are we supposed to get promoted based on merit or based on performance? Like if you look at what I've been doing, so I started listing the things that I've been doing, things that I wasn't even supposed to do, and I kind of volunteered to do them, blah, blah, blah. And then he told me the same thing again. He said, you don't have any type of responsibilities, like huge responsibilities, family responsibilities. You don't have mortgage, you don't have children. There are people who, need the money more than you. So now you tell me how I wasn't supposed to quiet quit. Because at that point, oh man, everything that was like, Jenny, can you do this? I was like, no, I'm busy. I was doing the bare minimum. This is, I was doing the bare minimum. I really didn't have to prove anything to anybody at this point because I understood that I was not going to get promoted anytime soon. So I kind of worked my way out of that company. So instead of working, intensively like I used to, I basically chilled. I did what I was supposed to do, the bare minimum. And then I used the other time that I had to apply for other jobs, guys. I had to leave that company. And as much as I loved my boss, I loved my coworkers because they were the coolest coworkers that I've ever had in the history of me working in America, okay? But I had to let go. Because I was too ambitious to just linger around and wait for whenever I was going to be old enough, or maybe I was, going to get married and then I was going to have kids. Maybe then they were going to respect me a little bit. So I really didn't have that type of patience. I was like, you know what? It's about time for me to leave. So that's how I started quiet quitting. First experience, second job. I moved to Houston. I had this, guys, that one was an entire other history because I worked there for 6 years and some change that I was working at that company, 6 years and some change. And I'm telling you, from racism, from microaggressions, from, everything was so against me to the point where I was like, you know what? Deep down, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I think this is a blessing in disguise. And this is what I'm going to tell you. It's a blessing in disguise because the ambitious me was thinking I'm going to go up the corporate ladder. And I think if it wasn't the way I was treated unfairly, I don't think I would have been here today. I don't think I would have had the courage to launch my first company, then the second company, then the third, right? I don't even think I would have had the courage to move to Africa. Come on. Like, I think I became bolder and more authentic in what I wanted and how I wanted my life to be shaped just because of my experiences. Because I realized that it doesn't matter what I was doing, people were still not going to give me the respect that I deserve. They were still not going to be promoting me the way I deserve to be promoted. And whether it's based on gender, whether it's based on color, skin color, or any type of ism, right? Like, I just was like, this is not for me. So I feel like even though it didn't work out for me and I ended up quitting the corporate American route and then now venturing into entrepreneurship, I feel like every experiences that I had in my career kind of led me into becoming an entrepreneur because I realized that I just could not. I couldn't fake it. I couldn't be politically correct. I couldn't kiss ass. I just couldn't suck up to some of the things that, other people were doing just for the sake of getting promoted or being liked by your supervisor, your manager, or your boss. I just wasn't that person. So that second company that I worked for was so bad. So bad. Ooh! I don't even know where to start, but it was so bad. So I remember I had gotten to the point where I sat my supervisor down. Yes, I called a meeting on my supervisor, went to her office, and I said, I need to talk to you. Sat her down because I could see whatever she was doing. Like she was doing everything against me. So fortunately for me, the company changed the policies and the salary range. Many things in the company changed. So automatically, because of all these changes, I was promoted automatically. Regardless whether I had the merits or not, I was just automatically promoted to a 10% salary raise. Okay, so that was the first promotion. So this is not based on my boss or my manager thinking I'm good enough. This was just the company as a whole kind of like push people up because they changed a lot of things. So that was that. The second time that I was due for a promotion, I remember I got my performance evaluation for I think it was after 1 year or 1.5 years, got my performance evaluation. had this conversation with my supervisor, right? Because on the performance evaluation, if you have different sections, right, different areas that you're supposed to be evaluated on. So basically on the performance evaluation, if you exceed expectations, it means that you are good for a promotion. And if you meet expectations, it means that you may not still get promoted even though you meet expectations. And then the other ones is if you have below expectations level. Expectation is basically your job responsibilities, your roles, tasks, things that you're supposed to do. So I remember having a conversation with my then supervisor about my performance evaluation because I could see on my performance evaluation that everything was about meet expectation, meet expectations, meet expectations. So I really didn't have any area where it was exceed expectations. So as somebody who wanted feedback, right? So I asked her, I said, is there anything you would have wanted me to do different? She said, oh no, Jenny, you did everything perfectly. You did everything the way you were supposed to do. And I even feel like you did more than what I expected. Okay. Then I asked her the question again. I said, if you think that I did a little bit more or I did things amazingly, how come I have meet expectation, which means I'm probably not going to get promoted? Because based on the performance evaluation, I was not getting promoted, right? And she said, no, but maybe next time. I was like, okay, guys, I wasn't going to let it go. So I asked her this specific question. I said, is there anything that I could have done for you to grant me this promotion? And you know what she said? No. No. Full stop. And I remember just looking at her. I was so confused. I was like, what? I was like, okay, maybe let me rephrase my questions. I said, what would you have me do in order to get promoted? And she said, oh, nothing. You did everything perfectly. But yet, I was not getting promoted. So this was my second experience dealing with a work environment that was not only hostile, but a work environment that promotes people based on preference, right? Like if your boss or your manager loves you, then you're going to get promoted. If you guys drink happy hour together and you gossip about office stuff, you get promoted. If you kiss ass, you get promoted. But if you're just a regular normal employee who is trying to do her best to exceed her expectations and prove that she's capable, you don't get promoted. So that was my second experience that made it in such a way that I was like, you know what? I need to make a tough decision right now. The first thing that I did in order to change my circumstances was to go back to school. Because I figured, you know what? It's been almost 5 years that I've graduated already. And I always wanted to go back for my master. I wanted to do an MBA. Maybe it's about time that I start doing my MBA. So I went back to school for my MBA. And I was still working at that company, don't get me wrong. I was still working there because the girl needed a paycheck, okay? I had bills. So I was still working at that company, but I was taking classes, MBA classes in the evening. So from 6 p.m. all the way to 9 p.m. Sometimes it will go even up to 11 p.m. depending if I have like teamwork, group work, and so forth. I did that for 2 years. Didn't miss a beat, okay? I was going to summer classes. I was going to classes on weekends. I was going during the week. I didn't miss a beat, and I graduated with honor, and I'm happy and proud of myself. So the reason why I went for the MBA is really because guys, there was no way I was going to be, furthering my career in that type of environment. And even though other companies can be better, I just knew deep down that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and maybe it was about time that I do something about it. And I wanted to have other skills that will allow me to successfully launch my first business. So that's really the reason why I went for the MBA, nothing else. And after having the MBA, I was still working at that company. The reason why I remained at that company, even though I was already quietly quitting, right? Like I was doing the bare minimum. I wasn't going above and beyond. I wasn't experiencing any type of burnout. That's because the time that that extra time that I wasn't putting into my job, my 9-to-5 job, I was actually investing that time into my businesses, okay? I was building a business plan. I was working on, some of the, because my first business is my bridal company. So I had to figure out who were going to be my manufacturers, who were going to be the people that were going to be supplying, how I was going to be pricing things, where I was going to be selling online, physical store, and so forth. So quiet quitting really helped. Like it was really a blessing in disguise because I realized that at the end of the day, you know what? Maybe this work environment is not working for me, but I can build something on my own. So, and I'm going to say this, if you're going to be planning to quiet quit, then you have to be real with yourself and you have to be honest with what you're capable. I mean, guys, you already know America has a hustle culture. It's all about working, working, working. Even though your work stop at 5 p.m. doesn't mean you have to go home at 5 p.m., okay? I know many of my friends that they have a 9 to 5 job, but guess what? Technically, it's a 9 to 8 p.m. job, right? Because that's the culture. If your boss is still in the office, you are in the office. You have to prove that you are doing beyond, you are going above and beyond. And I wasn't putting the hours. I wasn't putting the hours because I knew exactly, I already had a plan. So for the people who are thinking I'm going to be quiet quitting, you just have to have a plan. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? Maybe you're just quietly quitting without a plan. Maybe you just want to chill, but you also have to acknowledge that if you get fired, you know, or maybe there is a budget cut and then you're the first person that is out, you shouldn't be complaining because you were not really putting in the efforts and the hours that other people are putting in. So you have to be realistic with yourself. So quiet quitting is an amazing thing. I mean, I say amazing. I mean, from an employer perspective, this is horrible.
Quiet quitting is a really bad idea. If you're a quiet quitter, you're not working for me.
Now that I have companies, right? Now that I hire people, it's horrible. If I have a staff, let me tell you the truth. If I have a staff that is acting like I was acting, I would be like, I need to get rid of that person. But so I also understand the employers, right? Because the employers are looking at the current climate and they're like, why is it that millennials don't want to work? But at the same time, if you don't make the work environment, you know, how do you expect them to be comfortable working there? They're not going to be comfortable working there. So they're not going to be comfortable. And I also understand that there are some millennials who just don't want to work. They just don't want to make the effort. And I agree that those companies should sack them. You know, it makes sense because you're just taking up space that somebody else could have held and do a better job, you know, and make the company more successful. So anyway, but quiet quitting really helped me. I mean, I feel like quiet quitting saved me, really saved my life. Because I think when I was working at that company, I felt like I was slowly dying. You know, that type of slow death? I just felt like from the ambitious girl that I was and the girl who believed that she could do anything, she could be anything, and to find myself in an environment that was so hostile and with all the microaggressions, guys, long story short, I ended up, you know, taking that company, kind of like filing a lawsuit against them and so forth. I don't want to go into details, but I was losing hope. I was miserable. I'm not the girl, the typical girl who's thinking, I want to get married, get a husband. No, I was the girl who said, I'm going to build empires, right? I'm going to work. I'm going to be a partner at this company. I wanted to work. That was my DNA. So to find myself in a company that was just crushing me every day that was going by, I just felt like I was dying a little bit more. I feel like quiet quitting saved my life because as soon as I took on this project of building my first company, I was already like, my brain was already wired to think something else, right? I wasn't just focused on work because I feel like 150% of my time was work. And then when I decided I'm just going to take it slow, I'm just going to be chilling, I'm just going to be doing the bare minimum so that I don't get fired, because you still have to make sure that while you're doing the bare minimum, you don't get fired. So I think when I made the decision, I now had extra time and I really didn't, guys, I wasn't fussing about anything. Nobody could shake me. Because I think even when I was getting, you know, when you have meetings with your supervisor and then she's trying to tell you you are not really, you know, doing ABCD, like I wasn't, whatever warnings they were giving me did not really face me. Because I knew exactly where I was going because I had a plan, I had a goal. And that's how I ended up becoming full-time entrepreneur. And then because I wanted to make an impact, I wanted to be in Africa. So that's why I'm here in Africa. So that's really the story of how I ended up, you know, quiet quitting kind of saved my life and made me this person that today, because I have lived through the experiences for almost 9 years, right? I work in corporate America. So I lived through the experience of having bad bosses, bad supervisors, that now that I am in the shoes of an employer, in the shoes of, you know, a CEO, of, you know, a boss, I'm aware of how I should be treating my employees, right? Like, I think sometimes we get lost as entrepreneurs. We get lost in the goal, where we're trying to go. And we forget that we're dealing with human beings and we have to be treating them with respect. We have to be treating them with care and we have to kind of listen to them And I know this is not a family matter or whatever when you work in a company, but to a certain extent, you are dealing with human beings, right? Because it takes people to make anything successful. So if you're going to be working with people, you better make sure you treat them really good. So that's my entire experience and story, how I kind of quiet quit. The reason why I even quiet quit. And then this is me now. So I'm happy where I am. Guys, I just went, this year, I went on so many vacations. I feel like I went on so many vacations. So yeah, quiet quitting works for some people. It doesn't work for others. You just have to have a plan. And you have to be realistic about how you quiet quitting and the expectation that you still have towards your employer. Are you still expecting to be promoted? Because that's delusion, right? You just being delusional at this point. Anyway, guys, so that's my story. Let me know, guys, what you think. Do you know people who are quiet quitting? Are you the one quietly quitting? Let me know in the comment section down below. I want to see a lot of conversation. You guys already know I'm always replying to you guys' comments. So I'll be glad to see what you think. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe as usual, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!